Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we're going to pause the draft conversations for just one episode because we have to react to what we just learned coming out of Santa Clara. Because Niners GM John Lynch just updated us on Brock Purdy's contract, George Kittle's contract, even got some Fred Warner updates, and John Lynch may have even left us the biggest hint as to who the 11th overall pick may be in this year's 2025 NFL Draft. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms, and let's dive into the news today on 49ers Access. Let's kick things off with the biggest, most contentious news of the news spell, if you will, of John Lynch's press conference, that being of Brock Purdy, because it's been a rather quiet offseason. There was some early indications that they might get a deal done during the scouting combine. Lynch and Purdy's agent were talking there. They had a meeting there. But other than that, it's been relatively quiet. It seems like negotiations have been on the down low. No one's making much of this. And it's still kind of more of a he said, she said, will they, won't they? When will they, won't they? When will they not? We're all trying to figure out what's going on out there with Brock Purdy and company. But according to Mike Silver yesterday of The Athletic, he said there's been some progress towards a multi-year extension for Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers that will likely pay him more than $50 million per year. Now, Silver ended his report by saying if Brock Purdy shows up tomorrow, which is today, at the voluntary workouts, it's a good sign for both parties' negotiations, where they're at, and they're going to be in a good place. Well, the news gets better for those that want to get this thing done and put behind them, because Brock Purdy showed up today for voluntary workouts, indicating that the Niners and Brock Purdy are on good terms and they're moving towards a contract extension. Who knows how long it actually takes, but overall, it's a good direction and a good place to be in for Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. And I think, again, you're going to hear reports of people saying they should trade Brock Purdy if he holds out. Go draft Shedeur Sanders, draft a quarterback in this year's draft, and that's a bunch of hogwash. Honestly, the Niners are going to pay Brock Purdy. The question really just is how much. And I think it goes a long way, and I think it indicates as to where Brock Purdy's mindset is, because Brock Purdy showed up today ready to work, ready to go. Now, it's not a super extensive workout. It's more of meetings, kind of a reintroduction. We were all in school once, right? It's like a welcome back kind of day. How was your summer? Let's get into meetings and scheme talk and all this stuff. Get your locker set up and all that stuff. So again, it's not a big thing. There's no media. There's no actual doing 11-on-11 drills. It's simply just a light workout and kind of a welcome back for the team, which John Lynch did say they had overwhelmingly about 95% of the players there, all of them, but I think one big name was not there. Wink, wink, that was George Kittle. But Brock Purdy was there. And I think it really shows you why Brock Purdy is the kind of player this team and most teams would want to invest in. Now, yes, Purdy's already a good player on the field, but off the field, he's telling you, I'm a team-first player. I saw the mistakes that were made last year. Brandon Aiyuk, the entire saga, of he's holding in, and there's the shorts issue during practice one day. Then there's, the social media posts and the podcast. Brock Purdy told us from last season he wants to avoid the drama. And being there on day one is essentially him saying, I'm keeping to that promise. I'm keeping to my comments 6-7 months ago of I don't want to be dealt with or dealing in the drama in any way. That's his agent's job and how they do things out there when it comes to money and years and negotiations. Brock Purdy simply just wants to play football, but also wants to get paid. But you can tell his focus is on being a leader of this team, making sure he's there from day one. He learned and has seen what not to do. Don't be Brandon Aiyuk. In a certain way, although you respect Trent Williams, He missed the entirety of OTAs last year, the entirety of training camp, the entirety of preseason. Brock has seen, even from 35, 36, 37-year-old veterans, future Hall of Famers, of maybe there are things that they did I shouldn't do as a quarterback of this team. Because Brock last year talked about what it meant for him to not have Brandon Aiyuk out there, to not have Trent out there, to not have, to have Juwan Jennings out there with him every single day, leading to a near 1,000-yard campaign. Those things matter. Day one matters for quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends and stuff. And, I don't think today is a big deal of like, oh my God, where was George Kittle? I do think it does give us, as fans at least, and also from a team perspective of like, look, Brock's committed to us. Even if we have yet to commit to him long term, and they will, but haven't done it yet, he's committed to us as a team, as a fan base. Brock is saying, I'm not going to make this hard for you guys. I'm not going to hold out and hold in or, complain on, podcasts and social media. Brock is a team first guy through and through. He's a reason why this team, when he came in 2022, they rallied around him so quickly. Yes, he was a good player, but also because they felt this sense of a team-focused mindset, a team-centered, okay, Brock's sacrificing for me because I sacrificed for him. And it kind of like refocuses your team. It gets your mind right. It gets your body right. It kind of helps the mentality of your roster. That was kind of what Jimmy Garoppolo did. There were times where you'd hear players say, well, Jimmy gets into the huddle and things calm down. I think that's true. Jimmy had leadership qualities, but on the field play wasn't his strong suit, if you will. Whereas Brock can pair those two things now. I'm not saying Brock's elite. I'm not saying Brock's top 10. I'm not putting a stamp on Brock Purdy of a quarterback tier list or whatever. I'm just saying Brock has already proven to be a damn good football player on the field. And he's already proving through the first day of the voluntary workouts to be in this, to win this. And that matters for a team that was 6-11 last year, has to nail this draft, has to pay their quarterback, pay their tight end, wants to pay their linebacker, and has to get back to winning football games. Having your quarterback there on day one does really make us all feel pretty good. To me, again, Brock's a great player, a really good player. And it's even better when your really good players are at quarterback, but also when your quarterbacks are boring, when there's no distractions, when there's simply just, business. Like Tom Brady was like that. Other great quarterbacks, Drew Brees was like that. It doesn't mean they don't do things off the field. It doesn't mean they don't celebrate and aren't loud and can do things like that. But when it comes to money, the finances, what they do behind the scenes on social media, the charities they work with, Brock is a very not me-centered person. He's not self-centered whatsoever. It is, how do I give to others? How do I put myself on the line for others on and off the field? Very charitable person, kind person, but also a pretty boring person behind the scenes, right? He doesn't have this incredible, heartbreaking story. It's just, I got a mom and a dad, and I was a last pick in the draft. But I'm also a good, I beat the odds, if you will, right? So, Brock is a boring player, but he's a really good player. And you want those types of people as your quarterbacks. Now, you can't be boring and not good. You have to be boring and good to warrant that kind of praise, and Brock has earned that, in my opinion. Now, you can get into the weeds as to what he's worth and what he's not worth, but, even going into the offseason where Purdy has every right to say, I'm holding out, I'm holding in, I want $65 million. If Dak Prescott gets 60, I should get more than that. Brock has every right to ask for that. Now, maybe he is, but I guarantee you this, you're never going to know about it. You're never going to know what Brock Purdy's initial asking price was. There has been no leaks. There's been no numbers out there. It's just, it's going to be in the 50 range. There has never been a concrete Brock asked for this. Brock wants to be the highest paid quarterback. And I think that's kind of exemplified into all the work he's done right after the season ended, right? Super Bowl stuff happens. They don't go to the playoffs. Brock is there doing some interviews here or there, but we've heard the entirety of the offseason, right, where Brock's in Nashville, where George Kittle lives, a guy who again, wants to get paid as well, putting in the work with him with the anticipation that, hey, we're both going to get our deals done. Putting in the work pre-OTAs, pre-training camp to make sure that he and George Kittle do not miss a beat. They have been one of the best quarterback and tight end tandems in football since Brock took over. He's putting in the work in March and trying to get things geared up for a really important season for the San Francisco 49ers, where if they can hit on their picks, their window becomes reopened or wide open once again. But it's a really important year for them. And Brock's working with George Kittle, also working with Mac Jones, his backup quarterback, Ricky Pearsall, last year his first round pick wide receiver, Jacob Cowling, who, if you listen to what happened with Demarcus Robinson with the DUI, he may get suspended for 3 games this year. They got to have Cowling play well. Everything to me that has been shown from Brock Purdy is that's the guy you want leading your organization. Again, you can debate if he's Mahomes and Allen and Burrow and Lamar Jackson. He's not. We know that. But when you task somebody with, here's the keys to the franchise, Brock Purdy as a person has earned that right and deserves that right. And as a player, because he's really good on the field, and maybe he's top 10, maybe he's top 12, maybe he's top 8. I don't know. That can change from a given Sunday, right? But he deserves the right and the respect to go out there and hold out, but he's not. And all of that to me indicates Brock Purdy is the person I want to have leading the San Francisco 49ers. There's a reason why Lynch and Shanahan have, in a lot of different ways, verbally tied themselves and their tenure to him, because they believe in Brock Purdy, at least as a person, and they think that he can be the person to at least help carry them into this new generation of Niner football, post Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Deebo Samuel, and more of the kind of, Dre future. But I think Brock Purdy, again, you can debate as a player what he is and what he can and can't be. I think Brock is just, he should be what every quarterback reaches for as a person. Off the field stuff, the work ethic, the way he leads by example, the way he captains a roster. Again, debate, play all you want. That's not what we're here for currently. We'll debate what he may or may not get later. But him being here on day one, I think, is a tone-setting move for a franchise that needs direction. You love John Lynch. Maybe you love or dislike Kyle Shanahan. There's reasons to be on both sides. But overall, I think if you look for someone to kind of steer you in the right direction, to balance out your ship when it gets in rocky waters in a really weird off season after a really bad regular season in 2024, I think Brock is doing a really good job through one day of voluntary workouts to make sure he's there, make his presence felt, and, really kind of tell the Niners, send a message to the team of like, if I'm here, and I don't have to be, you better be here too. And so I think it's a good sign. I think a lot of it from Brock so far has been just thumbs up, great stuff. You love to see it. It's stuff that you wanted from Aiyuk last year. It's stuff that we've seen in previous off seasons from George Kittle, Fred Warner, other leaders on this team. And at times when the negotiations get tricky and tough, and San Francisco lowballs you, it makes you want to pull out, and things can get disrespectful at times. From the financial aspect, Brock is not taking those things personally thus far. That may change, but it may not either. And I don't think Brock has given us any point to say that, like, wow, Brock is doing things the wrong way. Brock has done almost everything the right way since being here on the field and off the field. But there are still some people like Joseph here in the comments coming in hot, saying signing Brock Purdy will make this the start of the downfall for this regime. I'd push back on that. I don't think this regime I don't think Brock Purdy is going to be a sole responsible party for this regime's faults, because they've already had some major faults pre-Brock Purdy, where I'm not saying the ice is thinning, but when you lose 2 Super Bowls and you have this kind of rocky offseason, like, yes, I think paying Brock Purdy does tie you to him, and his failures may be the ultimate downfall of the regime, which we'll see as time progresses. But ultimately, um, I don't like we've seen Shanahan succeed with Nick Mullins at times and Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. So I think we have to believe that if you're pairing Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan, that there's going to be some level of success, whether it's 3 years or a 4-year contract. We don't know what it'll be. But when it's all said and done, I have a really good feeling that, let's say, even if San Francisco doesn't win a Super Bowl, that the regime is not going to be crumbling because, again, last year's draft was really good. You're hoping on Thursday they can net that 11th overall pick and hit a home run with it in a pretty deeper class at certain positions, running back, even receivers pretty deep. You have a great coaching staff now in place. Salah's back, Shanahan's there, Kosarek's there, Kubiak's a pretty good OC. Like you have a lot in place. So I have a hard time believing that signing Brock Purdy is going to be this ultimate ground shaking mistake they're going to make. They've already made one of those before, and I don't think Brock Purdy's anywhere near that. You think Trey Lance, that was a big risk, a lot less risk with Brock Purdy. If he can simply be a portion of what he was in 2023, this team's going to win 10 plus games. Whether this year or next year, I have no idea, but they should be competitive. Like again, they got CMC, Grando, Trent will be back. He was there today, which is a really good sign. You like Pearsall a lot. You love Jawan Jennings. You can get Aiyuk healthy probably in November, hopefully. There's a lot to like from this roster still. It's very top heavy, but that's why you have 11 picks this year to hopefully fill out your depth and get stronger. There's reasons to be optimistic, reasons to be pessimistic, but I don't think Brock Purdy is one of those hinge points for me. I think Brock's been really good. Had one rocky season, that was last year, but a lot of things went wrong where it doesn't excuse everything, but it does excuse some things for Brock, which I think and I hope, knowing the person he is and wants to be, he's going to use last season as a learning point and a point to say, I don't want, Christian McCaffrey not being healthy to be a reason why I can't perform well. And maybe that's not a blind belief, but an overwhelmingly strong belief in who Brock Purdy is and wants to be, the work ethic he has. I do believe in Brock Purdy. Now, how much? I don't know, but I do think Brock, if you're going to give Brock $54 million, which is below right now the market price, it's a pretty good deal for both sides. Now, you can get the years and stuff, but overall, I think that Brock is not going to ruin this organization or the regime whatsoever. Joseph tags his comment here by saying, when Brock crashes and burns and we go 7-10, I hope you're in the chat, Juan. Referring to Juan Doe up at the top, calling out Joseph for his comment earlier. I really think that, again, there's a lot of reasons to be not excited or to push back on Brock Purdy as a player and whatnot, but I think that Brock has done everything right since day one, and I think it's really hard to kind of find flaws in him as a person and as a player. He isn't tall enough, he isn't strong enough, but overall, it's like Brock's been a winner, and you hope that this team can do good by him and by themselves and build a roster around him to make him better in every single aspect. The expectation shouldn't be Mahomes or Allen, but I think that if you give Purdy $55 million per year, it's a good deal, and you're going to be in a good place to succeed. And look, don't forget this either, is that right now we're in 2025, right? So if they give Brock Purdy a 4-year deal, and let's say that puppy ends in 2029, when all the TV deals are up, when ESPN and Fox, like when all this new cap stuff is going to get rearranged all over again. So there's a real way where San Francisco could give Brock Purdy a 4-year deal, a 3-year deal, and set themselves up for a crazy 2029 offseason where all the TV deals are going to be redone. The NFL is probably going to have a $345 million cap. It's going to be crazy. So, again, that's a long ways away, but this long-term thinking, there is a way where Brock Purdy's contract is a really good thing for San Francisco in the short term, and also kind of sets themselves up for, if they are done with him in 4 years, a really big swing in 2029, where if San Francisco goes to the playoffs, in the next 3 of the next 4 years, they're going to be happy with that. Now, they're not going to be overjoyed. They're going to win the whole thing. But overwhelmingly, if you're in the dance over and over again, he isn't the reason why you're losing, you're in a good place. But you got to fix the offensive line, get a left guard, find a left tackle in the future, the next couple of years. I really think that, again, Brock's not going to crush you whatsoever. I don't think the injury history is that big of a deal. The UCL was a freak kind of accident, freak incident. And the shoulder, guys get hurt all the time. So I'm not really too worried about Brock Purdy. Now, again, if you're paying him $65 million, we're having a different conversation. But being there on day one, Brock is setting a tone and showing to be a leader for the organization. I do want to dive into George Kittle because George Kittle is the other more contentious topic of conversation because George Kittle wasn't there today. And a lot of people were making this a big deal. Oh, Kittle isn't there. He's a no-show. He's holding out. It's there's bad signs. And to be very honest with you, George Kittle never, ever, ever shows up to the pre-draft portion of the quote-unquote voluntary workouts, right? This is not OTAs. This is not training camp. This is a pre-draft welcome back visit. This is really like if you went to college. For myself, when I was a freshman in college, they told all the rookies, all the new guys, be there a week early, move yourselves in, get yourself up. There's events all over the place. They're doing things. But if you're a sophomore, if you're a junior, if you're a senior, if you're in grad school, you move in 2 weeks later, no fanfare at all. This is more of that first portion of like a reintroduction. This is get your syllabus week, if you will, for a lot of these players. Now, yes, a lot of guys are there. Trent, Purdy, Fred Warner was there, and you love George Kittle to be there, but this has never been a time where he's shown up outside of his rookie season. People point to, well, he's at Nashville Predator games and at WrestleMania over the weekend. George Kittle's always at WrestleMania. George Kittle, again, is always at Predator games. He goes during the season sometimes. It's rare that a player of his status, probably going to be a future Hall of Famer one day if he continues on his trek he's currently on. He's already, I think, the best tight end in team history. And I think he realizes that, look, it doesn't make sense for me to fly out to Santa Clara from across the country in Tennessee for a day, for a week, only to then leave again and not show up for about 2 weeks' time or until May during OTAs. So to me, it's a nothing burger. Like, this means nothing to me. Kittle, yes, you want to get a deal done, obviously, and not being there, does kind of hint towards there being a problem in the future. But him actually not being there today means nothing to me. It's not a big deal. Now, if it gets to June and we're in July and it's like, hey, we're in training camp, we're in OTAs, we're in preseason, that's a problem. And somebody on Twitter today pointed to, well, Trent Williams showed up today. And I was like, yeah, the difference is Trent got paid last year. Trent got paid last offseason after not being at OTAs, not being at training camp, not being there during the preseason. So if anything, you'd want some more proactiveness from San Francisco's side, but we know they do this all the time. It was a problem with Debo, Warner, Kittle in previous years, Aiyuk, Brock Purdy currently. Like, there's a lot of frustration from us towards the player, but in reality, that frustration should be pushed more towards the team. Now, there's nuances in there for sure. Like, Aiyuk made things harder for San Francisco than it really should have been. But even Aiyuk would tell you, like, they didn't come offer me a deal for a month. Like, what am I supposed to do? So it's back and forth. But overall, like, George Kittle not being there today to me is a non-story. However, a bigger story of this could be San Francisco potentially lowballing players. Now, a reason why this is coming to a conversation is because you had the Davante Adams conversation, and I'll tie this back into George Kittle in a second. But according to Mike Silver, who had a long, I think it was op-ed or an editorial on Davante Adams today, an interview with him for The Athletic, Davante talked about how he felt disrespected by the San Francisco 49ers during free agency. And the quote here is, "I was entertaining the Niners but they were like, we're paying wholesale. We ain't paying retail. I didn't talk to them, but that's what my agent told me, like 5 times that I quote. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going wholesale anywhere. So there is a little bit of this. Okay, if you are lowballing Davante Adams per se, are you also lowballing George Kittle? Are you also lowballing Brock Purdy? Which I think it's pretty commonplace. We all know this now that San Francisco usually hits every player they're going to resign with the initial lowball offer. See if they'll blink first. See if they'll, take that and go, what the heck? Like, it's a good barometer for them to be super low, have the player come back super high, and somehow meet in the middle. Now, do I love the negotiation tactics San Francisco has? No, I don't. But this is what they do. They've always done. So Davante Adams saying I was in some way lowballed. You want to pay retail, you want to pay retail price, or you want to pay a wholesale price, not retail price. That to me is what San Francisco does for everybody. Free agents, what they do for their own players. Now, I think it's a little more disrespectful for San Francisco to, lowball their own players compared to other players that are free agents. But then there's San Francisco's point of view of like, well, George Kittle, you're under contract. Brock Purdy, you're under contract. So we hold leverage over you in some way. So again, I don't love that, but I do think there is some credence to San Francisco lowballing free agents and lowballing their own players. That said, I do want to push back on Davante Adams because Davante Adams, who I never thought was coming to San Francisco, I never thought was really didn't make sense for them to sign him. You're cutting a 31, 32-year-old Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd, and you're gutting your defensive line, and you're letting Hufanga leave, and you're letting, or you're trying to re-sign Greenlaw, but don't want to pay him as much. And again, in a big fluctuation process for this roster and the regime, you're bringing in new coaching staff. Like Davante Adams, to me, is more of a win now, maximize your window kind of move, which is what the Rams did. But let's not forget, I'm sorry, I would also not want to pay retail price for a 32-year-old wide receiver who has had 2 very short stints in the past teams he's been on, the Raiders, because he couldn't stop bitching about the quarterback and the way the regime was run, and the Jets, who Aaron Rodgers was there and they didn't win a single thing with him on the roster. Now, I think Davante can still play, but he's over the hump somewhat, isn't the same player he was, and nobody in their right mind outside of the LA Rams are paying a wide receiver who's 32 years old at the end of his contract, going to be 34-year-old, 2 years and $44 million at $22 million a pop. Now, yes, there's guaranteed money involved, but overall, I could argue that the Niners may have offered Davante Adams, let's say, 2 years and $20 million, 2 years and $30 million. The Rams overpaid for a near 33-year-old wide receiver. I don't think it's wrong to say San Francisco may have made the right choice in not wanting to sign Davante Adams. Now, again, he would help you win games, certainly. But when you are in this fluctuation, this regime change where Shanahan is bringing back all these coaches and getting a new DC and a new Brant Boyer's coming in, and you trying to redefine Niner football, and you're cutting a lot of players and saving money and saving cash, Davante and giving him $44 million for 2 years makes no sense at all. And so for Davante to feel disrespected, dude, the Rams overpaid for you, brother. And look, the Rams are probably going to be competitive, may win the division, who knows? And Davante may be a large part of that. However, I don't think, in my opinion, it was a bad deal. I would shoot low for a 32-year-old wide receiver as well. I would shoot low for a guy who almost ran himself out of Las Vegas, who forced his way to New York, got to New York, and was like, well, you're going to cut my quarterback, so I don't want to play here either. That's a really confusing way to play football, and that, to me, doesn't fit in with San Francisco. Now, look, the Jets are a mess. The Raiders were a mess. But Davante Adams, to me, doesn't fit what San Francisco wants to do off the field, where Davante feels like a guy where if he don't get the ball through 6 games, he's going to quit on you. San Francisco can't have that at $22 million a year. Like, Davante, you got overpaid by a lot. Like, Davante is probably going to be a Hall of Famer one day. He is a legend of the NFL of the last 2010 decade, right? Or 2015 to 2022, whatever it was, his prime. Like, this is a great Davante Adams player, really great player. Him and Aaron were phenomenal in Green Bay. But if I told you, off the field wise, does Davante really fit in the locker room? Does he really fit in San Francisco? And even then, it looks more like Davante from the quote he put out, not what San Francisco put out, from what he put out. He was entertaining them. They were simply just making an offer. The pitch was, okay, I want to go to San Francisco, not they want me to sign there. That's a big difference. You have a lot of players that have their, pick of the litter. Some players want to go to San Francisco or Las Vegas or Seattle or New Orleans or the Jets. Okay, well, that team may not really have a fit for you, the money for you, so they're going to give you what they see fits in their roster, in their cap and whatnot. In San Francisco, having to pay Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Fred Warner and cut some players, well, there's some give or take there for sure. Davante Adams doesn't fit in the vision they foresee. So for him, which, okay, it's his truth, whatever, to feel disrespected in some way, brother, there's no way in hell San Francisco, at this point in time, 2 years ago, yes, they would have signed you. 3 years ago, of course they would have signed you. But now in 2025, in the context of this year, in these contracts, and what they're trying to do after a terrible season, Davante Adams never fit into what the vision for the franchise was moving forward. And I'm sorry, even then I would not pay a 32-year-old wide receiver coming off 2 very short stints with the Raiders and the Jets, who had locker room issues, who forced his way out of Las Vegas after bad quarterback play for 1 to 2 years because they traded away Derek Carr. Like, that does not fit in San Francisco. So when I heard Davante Adams quotes, I laughed. And I was like, okay, I would have paid discount price too, brother. Like, you aren't the same player you were. You disappear at times. You get overly frustrated easily. Like, if you don't have Aaron Rodgers, you ain't been the same guy. Now, look, him and Stafford, probably going to be great. He fits what the Rams quarterback situation is like more so than Brock Purdy and company in San Francisco. So, Davante, you got paid. You're probably going to have a pretty good year in LA, but overall, I wouldn't pay a 32-year-old wide receiver $44 million for 2 years. Not a chance. Not a freaking chance ever. San Francisco just traded away Deebo Samuel. Like, he was making a pretty nice chunk of change. Why would they go then sign Davante Adams for more equal that amount? Doesn't make sense. So you could feel a certain way, Davante, but overall, I think San Francisco dodged a bullet not signing you. You fit LA much more than San Francisco. But tying it back into George Kittle, the Niners and George Kittle, when you talk about lowballing players, I would not be shocked to watch San Francisco push things off, lowball him, hence why the report from Silver was the team and George Kittle remain pretty far apart in conversations. Now, again, I think far apart in conversation means that, hey, we want to pay you $15 million per year, give you the almost the exact same contract you got 4 or 5 years ago. And Kittle's like, no, I want to get Trey McBride money. And I think San Francisco, like usual the last couple of years, have shot themselves in the foot by not trying to get a deal done earlier during the offseason. Now, again, we're pre-draft. Draft's in 2 days, 3 days now, this weekend. But San Francisco watched their NFC West rival, the Cardinals, give Trey McBride a 4-year, $76 million deal, which is $19 million per year and $43 million guaranteed. As soon as that happened, every single journalist, content creator, reporter all said, well, George Kittle's a pretty happy guy right now. And you want to know why? Because he's seeing money signs like, cha-ching, I'm going to get $80 million per year. Or not per year, but I'm going to get $80 million and $20 mil per year. I'm going to get 45 guaranteed. And it was like, oh crap. Had San Francisco been proactive and got a deal done sooner and not done this whole we do the offseason in phases kind of thing and, kind of work things out at a quicker rate, they could have avoided Now it seems like paying George Kittle a really hefty price tag, where tight end continues to be a lower paid position, where now Kittle's current deal on his current deal, he's getting paid $15 million per year. He's going to want 20 per year, and rightfully so. He's a better player than Trey McBride, and McBride's great as well, but Kittle has been, and coming off a 8+ touchdown season, 10+ touchdown season, over 1,000 yards again. Kittle's like, I'm not slowing down at all. I want more than McBride got per year on Kittle's current deal. He's getting $40 million guaranteed. McBride got 43. Kittle may say, I want a 4-year deal for $80 million, $20 mil per year, and I want 45 guaranteed. And you know what? That's deserved. That's earned for what he's done. But I do wonder, one hump that they may try to get over, and maybe this is a sticking point for San Francisco, is, look, we made a lot of mistakes in going all in, right? Traded some draft picks for Chase Young, Randy Gregory. We paid Javon Hargrave. We paid Deebo Samuel. We paid Brandon Aiyuk. We paid Trent Williams, or redid Chris McCaffrey's deal. We, try to get Trey Lance to be a great quarterback, trading 3 first-round draft picks. Like, we took some big risks here, and we missed on a lot of those, deals and players. And I think with all the talk of Brock Purdy's contract, how San Francisco's coming in hot. They want to penny pinch. They want to be brutal. They want to be this kind of ruthless, financial, or, these negotiators, right? I can see them using the exact same tactics against George Kittle. Well, George, Trey McBride is only 25 years old. You're 32. You mean, you're really worth that? I think if you're San Francisco and even George Kittle, okay, give him a 3-year deal. You ain't got to give him 4. Give him a 3-year deal. Kittle, the way he plays, and yes, there's been some injuries here or there, but overall, relatively healthy player, one of your best players in franchise history. He needs to be a lifelong 49er, not for nostalgia, because he's a really good player for you, and your quarterback you're about to sign to a big-year deal, well, they have really good chemistry, and what they do helps you in football games. I also wonder, the age could bring and could try to make San Francisco, kind of drag Kittle's asking price down, but also I wouldn't be shocked to see San Francisco want to get Purdy's deal done, and the years of Purdy's deal may be similar, same timeline for George Kittle's deal, right? Purdy gets 3 years, Purdy gets 4 years. Could we see a mirror of that for George Kittle as well? Like, look, if Purdy's going to be gone in 3 or 4 years' time, well, maybe George Kittle, who in 3 years will be 35 years old, maybe that's his exodus as well. So I don't know how much that actually matters, but overall, I think we could see something of the sorts be at play here with San Francisco, Kittle, and Brock Purdy and their negotiations, that there may be some similarities in how they're utilized and how San Francisco comes to play during those. I do want to pause for 1 second to ask you kindly that if you're going to go to a concert, a baseball game, an NBA playoff game, to use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. To me, SeatGeek is the best place. It's the best ticketing app. I'm going to hopefully Money in the Bank for WWE. Survivor Series is in San Diego. The Giants are coming to LA in May. I'm going. And I'm like, I want to see my boys in the orange and back play. And I'm using SeatGeek and saving myself some money off my purchase by using my own promo code. That's how cheap I am. And hoping, in your case, you can also use the promo code to help yourself out at SeatGeek.com. We have some comments here in the YouTube chat saying trade George Kittle. I don't know who put this out there. I don't know why I'm seeing Titans fans discuss, oh, you draft Cam Ward at 1 and you get George Kittle for a day 2 pick. Why in the world, after trading away Deebo Samuel, and having Aiyuk be hurt probably till November at some point in time, not knowing the health of Christian McCaffrey, would you trade away your best offensive weapon? Like, that makes no sense. The Niners don't need to sell high on George Kittle. For what? For what? An extra day to pick? Or do you just keep the all-pro tight end you have? Like, what are we doing? Why trade? Like, George is a leader. Kittle is a great person in the locker room. He's a great PR person for the organization. You trade away George Kittle, people are going to be more upset off the field in that locker room than when you traded away Deebo Samuel. And you are going to face more repercussions trading away George Kittle, unlike trading away Deebo Samuel, who really isn't going to hurt you too much in his absence, in my opinion, this year. George Kittle is the heartbeat, the lifeblood of the offense, the way he plays. He belongs in red and gold forever, in my opinion. I think he should be. I think he will be. And even if a team like, the Titans came calling, hey, we'll give you pick 33 at the, beginning of the second round, then you get into a conversation of, okay, do we take Tyler Warren at 11 and then get whatever you want, on, pick 33? But even then, there's no promised Tyler Warren, who a lot of his touches are manufactured. They're screens. He's the wildcat quarterback at times, who's a good player, but there's more manufacturing of touches compared to Kittle, who can just get open against defenses. I would rather have George Kittle for 3 years, knowing he's probably going to be an All-Pro or Pro Bowler all those years, compared to Warren, who may need some time to get to Kittle's level. Why would you trade away your All-Pro tight end for a guy who may never be an All-Pro at the NFL level? That doesn't make sense to me. If you're trading away unknown draft picks for George Kittle, it's a win. But you're trading away George Kittle, who has shown you he can still play at a high level, off a 1,000-yard receiving season, where he became the third highest receiving yard leader in franchise history. You're going to trade that guy away? No, it's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't even be part of the conversation. We had this conversation 2 off seasons ago before they signed him. It keeps coming up, and it never happens, nor should it happen. You don't trade away good players. Deebo Samuel, in my eyes and seemingly San Francisco's eyes, really wasn't a good player last year. You don't mind trading him away. George Kittle's a damn good football player still. A really good football player still. Every team, minus the Chiefs, would want George Kittle. Like, he is tight end 2, tight end 1 in the entire league. You can argue at times he's better than Travis Kelce. Man. It makes no sense. The conversation is stupid to have of trading away George Kittle. It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. I don't care about where is he in the playoffs? Yeah, I get that. A lot of guys don't show up well. I don't think Kittle's the reason for that. The people forget this. They really forget this. George Kittle was the reason San Francisco had the lead against the Rams in 2021 in the NFC title game. He caught the touchdown, fade away in the back of the end zone over a defender. He was the guy that got you a lead and extended your lead. Now, I get it. They've played a lot more playoff games since then, but you can almost wash the entirety of 2022 away because Purdy hurt the elbow against Philadelphia. And it's just matchups and stuff. Kittle, to me, you need him. And look, a lot of his usage come playoff time, he's playing offensive line because they can never figure out why right tackle is a big, important position for them. So, again, George Kittle needs to be a San Francisco 49er for life. To me, he's in the echelon of the Frank Gore, the Patrick Willis, should have been Navarro Bowman forever. It just made sense. It makes sense for those guys to be on your roster. And Joseph, yes, I would agree here, Joseph. Paying $20+ million for a 31-year-old tight end will bite you in the butt. I would agree, but the difference is in this day and age, tight ends play till they're about 35 and can be competitive. How old is Travis Kelce? How old is Travis Kelce is my question. I get it. Different players, they play different. But how old is Travis Kelce? I guarantee you look it up here on my phone, he's 35 years old. So George Kittle at 31 has 3 years left, and he's 34 years old at $20 million per year, or whatever it may be. I don't mind that. Travis Kelce's playing at a high level still. Kittle's playing at a high level still. You can get an all-pro player. He needs to be on this team. It doesn't make any sense to trade away a great player, an all-pro player, a near Hall of Fame player if he continues to play at this rate. He is the second best tight end of his generation. It's Kelsey and it's Kittle, and there's a big gap beneath them. Like, this is the Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates of their time. You don't trade away those players. It'd be different if San Francisco sucked and they're rebuilding. They're not. They're not. They want to compete. They view this as a retooling, recalibration year, and Kittle is a part of the future of them getting back to hopefully top of the mountaintop. So, no. Kittle's not getting traded. It shouldn't happen. Shouldn't even be open to conversation unless you're getting a first-round pick. Unless you're getting a first-round pick. And Joseph, I get it. You are Mr. Negativity here today. I don't know why you are. I don't know who hurt you, Joseph. But if you think San Francisco is going 6-11 the next 3 seasons, I'm going to ask you to go touch some grass for a second, walk outside, get some vitamin C. It's not going to be that bad. I don't know who hurt you, but I tell you what, we are going to preach some positivity because, yes, there is some injury stuff with the roster and whatever, but this is a darn good coaching staff and a darn good roster. So I love the comments. We can have the conversation, but overall, it's like George Kittle's going nowhere, nor should he. This is a good team that will be somewhat competitive in 2025, and they hope in 2026 they can reclaim their spot atop the NFC again and hopefully even more in the future. It's a risk. They have moves to make. They have the drafts in a couple of days. Got to hit on their pick. But and look, Joseph, why would they not be 6-11? Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Christian McCaffrey's a good receiver. They're probably going to draft one again this year. Or CMC's a good running back and a receiver. They have a darn good roster. It's top heavy. You fill it out, it's one of the best in football again. I don't know why people can't comprehend that. Like, the Niners can still be a good team. They just need some depth. And a lot of being a good team comes with re-signing and bringing back your good players. George Kittle and Fred Warner, who also showed up today at the voluntary workouts. I've seen some people kind of put Kittle and Warner in the same grouping of like, oh, I'm worried, I'm scared. Fred Warner has 2 years left on his contract. There is not a pressing need to get Fred Warner's deal done. Obviously, you love Fred. He is the best linebacker in football, bar none. Even without Greg Greenlaw out there, Fred was playing like an all-pro before he hurt his ankle last year. But to me, not to say getting Fred done isn't going to be a priority, but I don't think it's going to be a priority compared to Kittle or Purdy, who are in the last year of their deals. They want to get those deals done. So, and really also Fred showing up today kind of shows like, look, there ain't no bad blood. There's not this, we're far apart on a deal. This is more about Fred being a leader, being a captain, knowing that I need to be here for this team right now. Especially, without Dre Greenlaw back this year, now at Denver. You got Nick Bosa, and that defensive line is super thin, like bodies wise. So, somebody had to show up, honestly. It seemed like Nick Bosa showed up, but I also wouldn't doubt it if Nick Bosa didn't show up either. So, Nick really doesn't come until OTAs and sometimes doesn't even come for OTAs. So again, I think a lot of their absences and even their appearances are being overblown a little bit, albeit for Fred, it means far less from a contractual standpoint than Purdy or Kittle's do. But I don't think there is a pressing need to get Warner's deal done. But you want to get it done, but compared to Kittle and Purdy, it's not anywhere close to being a top priority for them this offseason. I want to move on to the last tidbit of what John Lynch said that was meaningful, because we have been racking our brains trying to figure out what San Francisco is going to do at pick number 11. Is it going to be edge rusher? Is it going to be Walter Nolan, defensive tackle? Is it going to be Tyler Warren, tight end? Is it going to be Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons? There's so many options on the board for San Francisco. And as we inch closer to the actual draft night on Thursday, everyone's going to kind of be on edge as to, okay, you got to hit on this pick. And I think the overwhelming consensus has narrowed down at least position-wise, it's going to be defensive tackle and going to be the edge rushing group. It'll be that group of players. Now, I think we all could say we want them to trade back, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Everybody wants to trade back, so that's kind of off the table unless Ashton Genty falls to 11. Then the Broncos could want to move up or the Cowboys want to move up. It depends. Again, the way the board falls will give us a good indication as to how San Francisco can play things. But overwhelmingly, trading back doesn't seem like an option for them. That said, all the eyes go back to pick 11. I said, okay, if it's defensive tackle, it's Derek Harmon, who has some medical issues that got flagged recently by some teams. Not sure if San Francisco's in that conversation or involved in that grouping. Then there's Walter Nolan. Then there's Kenneth Grant. Then the edge rushing group is, Michael Williams and Shamar Stewart and Mike Green. And there's some give and take in all those players. But John Lynch, not to say gave it away, but really hinted at who the pick will probably be at number 11, barring that player getting picked earlier inside the top 10. And I'm going to give you the exact quote here, basically. And there's two of them that kind of dictate who we're talking about. I'll give you the second quote first because it's who they're not going to draft most likely. And the quote from John Lynch was, "Sometimes the production doesn't lie." And when you hear that and you think of who's being considered inside the top 11, top 12, the edge rushing group, you talk about Mike Green, who had 17 sacks last year but has some red flags. So the production's there, but red flags kind of pushing down the board for San Francisco. Then there's Shamar Stewart, who had all these incredible traits, a good RAS score. He's tough, he's quick, he's fast, but he's super raw, and he had no production whatsoever. But he plays the wide nine extremely well. He fits what they want to do in San Francisco. But there's a lot of banking on production, banking on projection compared to production. And to me, when John Lynch says sometimes production doesn't lie, that to me screams they're not drafting Shamar Stewart. It's a bull in the china shop, just kind of reckless, doesn't really have a direction, no pass rush plan, just an athlete that you like that has power, but the production doesn't lie. He didn't have many sacks last year, little pressures. He wasn't finishing off plays. To me, John Lynch openly told the media that unless something changes, I'm sure they have an idea as to who the first 10 picks will be. But at pick number 11, it's likely not going to be Shamar Stewart. He will probably be there. I will say this, that the Saints are that sneaky Shamar Stewart, the Bears are that sneaky spot for Shamar Stewart because Dennis Allen, formerly of the Saints, are known to pick those bigger-bodied, athletic DNs that don't really have much production at the collegiate level. So it seems like the Niners are no on Shamar Stewart, but the player they, in my opinion, have their eyes on is based off what John Lynch said today. And when he said this, you've got to have the ability to set a firm edge. That is something we covet. Who does that sound like to you? Who does that sound like to you? I like a guy that sets the edge. That's a trait that we covet. To me, if you have watched any of my mock draft, and hopefully you watched the last one we did last week, there's a pretty clear-cut answer there. Where if you don't want the production and you're scared of the production that Shamar Stewart has, where it really wasn't productive whatsoever at Texas A&M, but you want the hard edge setting defensive end, a guy you can believe in that, let's say, has good size. Maybe he's 6'5", 265 pounds, had an 82.9 run defense grade last year for Georgia. He had 30 pressures. He had 6 sacks. He had an ankle injury last year that may have pushed down his production, but overall better and similar production to Shamar Stewart. But again, you believe there's more there for you compared to Stewart. It really does sound like that the Niners have keyed in on Michael Williams from Georgia as their top edge rusher at pick number 11. Now, obviously, they would love Abdul Carter, but even then, Abdul Carter is shorter than Michael Williams, a little smaller. Like, I think San Francisco has kind of told us we want Michael Williams at pick number 11. Now, this could be the ultimate Vince Russo WCW 2000 swerve, and we all go, oh my God, it's Nick Scorton. We all say, what the heck? Like, where'd that come from? Or it's, Princely and Malin from Ole Miss. Like, oh my God. Like, and we're all like, oh, what overdraft. But it seems like they have really put in the work on Michael Williams. It seems like compared to what, the kind of yin and yang to what Lynch is saying there, they want the hard edge setter. It sounds like Michael Williams is the guy for San Francisco at pick number 11. Now, in our last mock draft, I talked him up. I talked about why it could be the pick for you at number 11. So if you want more information on him, either tune into that or you can come back here tomorrow, maybe even tonight. We'll see. And as I unveil my my final mock draft before Thursday's NFL draft first round, again, there are some things to like about Michael Williams, big edge rusher. He's an edge setter. The Niners haven't really had one of those in a long time. Not like even Ebukam, who was a good player for us. He was like, 7 sacks a year, 8 sacks a year, but he wasn't a big player. He's kind of like that C plus, B minus type player, where Michael Williams is this big hulking 6'5", 265-pound player. 34 and 3/8-inch arms. He'll just get inside an offensive lineman. He can also play inside, outside, violent player. You would really want there to be some more pass rush productivity, but I would rather take a chance on Michael Williams, who already has an important trait: run stuffer, run defender, hard edge setter, keep quarterbacks in the pocket, contain running backs going to the outside, compared to Shamar Stewart, who really doesn't know what the hell he's doing. There's a lot of athletic traits to like, but really there's not much else. It's way more projection with Shamar Stewart compared to Michael Williams, who at least can be a base down player for you and stop the run, which this team desperately needs. So I would not be shocked to watch Michael Williams be this team's first round pick at number 11. And it kind of really shows and kind of tells us what John Lynch is thinking. And the way he talked, it sounded like there's a real consensus in the room, because he mentioned that when they draft well, there is an overall consensus. So it does sound like that it's not just him. It's Saleh, it's Shanahan, it's Kocurek. They really like Michael Williams, that pick number 11. But time will tell what happens on draft night. Things can get crazy. This is one of the more unpredictable drafts in recent years. And hopefully you watch my final mock draft coming out in the next few days or so. And maybe if you're lucky, and I'm lucky, you can join myself, Mark Grandy, and others on 95.7 The Game's YouTube channel and the airwaves in San Francisco as we get to live react, discuss, and analyze day 1 and hopefully day 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft. I can't wait. I'm excited. This is what we wait for all March. As soon as the year ends, it's put your eyes to the draft. So I cannot wait to see what happens on Thursday. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And I will be eagerly waiting to see what San Francisco does, because I am anticipating a lot of groaning and complaining and not very much praising on the behalf of San Francisco on Thursday. So I'm hoping we can all collectively like the pick they make, but I'm sure it's never going to happen with the fan base. That said, you can follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X for Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And you can get yourself a can of goat fuel down below using our link and save yourself 10% off your purchase at goatfuel.com. Thank you to Bobo, Fish and Chips, Niner Josh, Seeker of Truth and Wisdom, Joseph Ernberg, Kawachipto, many, many more in the YouTube chat. Leon Sandcastle, always one of the best, and more of you as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Have a great rest. What is it, Tuesday? Tuesday evening. and I'll talk to you soon. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.